The midday sun spilled like gold across downtown Austin, warm, alive, and full of movement. The air carried the scent of roasted coffee and sizzling food from sidewalk diners, and the gentle hum of city life blended with a single, fragile sound. The melody of a guitar. On the corner outside Marina's table, a high-end restaurant famed for its celebrity guests, stood Ethan Brooks, a young musician with calloused fingers and eyes that had known more struggle than rest. His guitar, chipped, worn, but cared for, caught the sunlight as his fingers danced across the strings. The tune was simple, yet hauntingly beautiful. His voice carried that rare rawness, the kind that could make a stranger stop mid-step, unsure why their heart suddenly felt heavier. Passers-by paused to listen. A mother pushing a stroller smiled softly. A man in a suit dropped a few crumpled bills into Ethan's open guitar case. For a brief moment, the world seemed lighter, every note a small act of hope floating through the golden air. But not everyone saw it that way. Behind the glass door of the restaurant, Richard Hale, the owner of Marina's table, stood with arms crossed. His white apron was spotless, his hair slicked back with precision. Every inch of him spoke control. To Richard, image was everything. And in his mind, a street musician outside his restaurant wasn't artistic charm. It was a stain on perfection. Unbelievable, he muttered to his manager, eyes narrowing. I pay thousands to create an atmosphere of class. And this kid turns my restaurant into a sidewalk circus. The manager hesitated, glancing outside. He's not bothering anyone, sir. People actually seem to... But Richard was already storming out, his polished shoes clicking sharply against the pavement. Ethan looked up mid-song, startled. The warm smile on his face faltered as Richard's shadow fell over him. Hey! Richard barked, his tone cutting through the air like a blade. You can't play here. You're disturbing my customers. Ethan blinked, confused. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to bother anyone. I don't want excuses, Richard snapped. Pack it up. Go play somewhere else. The few onlookers who had gathered fell silent. A young couple exchanged uneasy glances. The mother with the stroller pulled her child closer. The golden afternoon suddenly felt colder, heavier. Ethan swallowed hard, his throat tightening. Sir, please. I'm not doing any harm. I'm just trying to earn a few bucks for my sister's medicine. She's... Enough. Richard's hand waved dismissively. This isn't a charity zone. Take your story somewhere else. He turned and walked back toward the restaurant, his face set in stone. The heavy glass door slammed shut, the reflection of Ethan's stunned face lingering in it for a moment before vanishing. Ethan's fingers trembled as he picked up his guitar case. His cheeks burned with embarrassment, the eyes of strangers digging into him like invisible weights. The guitar strap slipped from his shoulder, the instrument almost falling before he caught it. For a brief moment, he just stood there, frozen, his song unfinished. But what happened next would shock everyone watching. As Ethan began to walk away down the sunlit street, one final note escaped his guitar, soft, almost accidental. It hung in the air, trembling, drifting through the restaurant's open window like a whisper that refused to die. Inside, Richard ignored it. He was too busy straightening menus, perfecting every detail. His manager approached nervously, trying to ease the tension. Sir, she said quietly, I just got a message. A Hollywood producer, Calvin Rhodes. He's coming here for lunch today. He's scouting local talent, Richard froze. Calvin Rhodes? The Calvin Rhodes? Yes, sir. The one who launched Emma Vance's career. The one everyone's talking about. Richard's demeanor changed instantly. He adjusted his tie, smoothed his hair, and forced a confident smile. Well, finally. Some good news today. But outside, the real story was still unfolding. Ethan kept walking, head low, the sound of his shoes scraping the pavement in rhythm with the quiet ache in his chest. He didn't blame the restaurant owner. He'd met people like that before. People who saw the world through dollar signs and dinner reservations. But still, it hurt. He stopped at the end of the block, taking one last look at the restaurant that had just thrown him out. The windows reflected the sunlight so brightly it almost looked like fire. He strummed his guitar once more, a single lonely chord, before continuing down the street. Then, from around the corner, came the low hum of an engine. A sleek black car rolled to a stop right in front of Marina's table. The chrome gleamed, blinding in the sun. Conversations on the patio hushed. Even Richard looked up from inside, curious. The car door opened slowly, and stepping out was a tall man in a crisp gray suit, his expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses. He paused, his hand resting on the door as if frozen by something unseen. The faint sound of Ethan's fading music still lingered in the air, barely audible but alive. The man tilted his head slightly, listening. The muscles in his jaw tightened. Then, without saying a word, he turned toward the street, toward the direction Ethan had gone. Richard's heart skipped. His mind raced. Who was this man? The manager whispered. That's him. That's Calvin Rhodes. Richard's forced smile faltered as Calvin removed his sunglasses, his eyes narrowing at the horizon as though searching for the source of that lingering sound. The city continued to move. unaware that something extraordinary had just been set in motion. A chain of events born from one unfinished song, one cruel dismissal, and one man's moment of listening, and what would happen next would leave everyone speechless. If you believe that real talent deserves to be heard, not judged, then like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe for more stories that restore faith in humanity. The soft hum of conversation fades the moment Calvin Rhodes steps through the glass doors of Marina's table. The golden afternoon sunlight spills across the marble floor, catching the glint of his silver watch and mirrored sunglasses. Every head turns. The world-famous music producer, known for discovering voices that defined a generation, has just walked into a restaurant that's suddenly holding its breath. The maitre d' stumbles forward, his voice trembling. "Welcome, Mr. Rhodes. Your table?" But Calvin lifts a hand, silencing him without a word. His gaze shifts toward the patio doors, still half open, letting in the faint echo of something fragile and beautiful. A note, fading into the city hum. He removes his sunglasses, eyes narrowing. Who was singing outside just now? Behind the counter, Richard Hale freezes. His confident posture stiffens, his charm flickering. "Oh, that?" he says with a forced laugh. "Just some street kid, playing for change. I had to make him leave. He was disturbing my customers." The air tightens. Calvin's calm expression hardens into something colder. His voice drops, quiet but cutting. "You told him to leave?" A pin could drop. Even the clatter of dishes from the kitchen stills. Staff and diners exchange uneasy glances as the reality of who's standing before them sinks in. Calvin Rhodes isn't just a celebrity. He's a legend, a man whose approval could turn any musician into a global phenomenon. He steps toward the window, sunlight reflecting off the glass as he peers outside. Ethan is gone, his small figure lost in the bright Austin streets. Calvin's voice carries the weight of years in the industry, low and sure. "That street kid," he says slowly, "has the most honest voice I've heard in a decade." The words hit Richard like a physical blow. His practiced smile falters, replaced by the first flicker of regret. But before he can respond, Calvin's already moving, pushing open the restaurant door and stepping into the sun-drenched street. The moment he leaves, whispers explode inside. Did he say honest voice? Is he looking for that boy? Richard's assistant stares, stunned. Richard's hands clench the countertop, pride battling disbelief. "He's making a mistake," he mutters under his breath, though even he doesn't sound convinced. Outside, Calvin scans the street. Cars pass, laughter echoes from a nearby cafe, and somewhere, faintly, like a whisper carried by fate, he hears it again. The guitar, off-key, struggling but still singing. He follows the sound. Down the block, by a small stone fountain where sunlight dances on the water, Ethan sits hunched over his old guitar. One string is broken, the others buzz weakly as he tunes them, frustration clouding his face. He doesn't notice the small crowd that's gathering, or the man watching him from a few steps away. Calvin speaks softly. "That song you were playing earlier." Ethan looks up, startled. "Sing it again." There's hesitation in the boy's eyes, confusion, fear, and exhaustion from 1,000 unnoticed days. But something about Calvin's tone, firm, kind, believing, makes him nod. He strums. The first note wavers, cracked from emotion. Then another follows, stronger, clearer, until the melody finds its heart again. His voice rises, unpolished yet haunting, every word trembling with raw truth. The crowd quiets. Strangers stop mid-step. A child tugs her mother's sleeve and whispers. He sounds sad but happy. Sunlight glints off the water behind him, catching in his hair like a halo of gold. Calvin closes his eyes. He's been in the biggest studios in Los Angeles, heard the most trained voices in the world. But this is real. This is soul. When Ethan finishes, silence holds for one heartbeat. Then another, before applause erupts all around. Ethan blinks, unsure if he should smile. And that's when Calvin steps forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "How would you like to record your first album?" The world seems to stop. Ethan's mouth opens, but no sound comes out. The crowd gasps, some even cheering. The fountain sparkles behind them, the city alive with light. But a few feet away, framed by the restaurant doorway, Richard Hale stands frozen. His hands hang uselessly at his sides. The boy he dismissed, the one he called Noise, is now being offered a dream by one of the most powerful men in music. The weight of that realization crushes him. Pride drains from his face, replaced by something heavier, shame. As the crowd disperses, Calvin and Ethan walk toward the black car waiting by the curb. Calvin turns to him. "The world doesn't always listen the first time," he says quietly. "But when it finally does, you'll make it remember." And he means it. 3 days later, Marina's table looks different. Gone are the velvet ropes and the smug exclusivity. In their place, a small wooden sign swings gently by the door. "Live music. Every afternoon. All are welcome." The first performer, Ethan Brooks. The same boy once thrown out now stands proudly in front of the crowd, sunlight warming his face, guitar shining anew. His sister sits in the front row, smiling through tears as he sings the song that changed his life. Inside, Richard watches from the doorway. He's not the same man anymore. His pride has been replaced by humility, and perhaps something purer. He quietly steps outside, carrying a tray of lemonade, offering free drinks to listeners gathered around. When Ethan pauses between songs, their eyes meet for a fleeting second. No words, just understanding. The melody continues, gentle and full, drifting across the sunlit street. Calvin, leaning against his car nearby, listens one last time before driving off, smiling faintly. Because sometimes, the world doesn't lack beauty. It just forgets to listen. Pause. If you believe that one act of kindness can change a life forever, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Richard's place?